Good evening, everyone, and we want to welcome you to the 39th episode of the Londonderry View. Tonight and on our next episode too, we're going to do things a little differently. We've decided to offer a night for all of the candidates, 2 nights actually, that are running for our town elections, which will be March 12th, 6 in the morning until 8 o'clock in the evening, to come here on our show and just share with all of us and the community why they feel that they are the right person to hold the position. So each candidate will be given 15 minutes and 15 minutes only, and we're going to start with John Farrell, who will be running for town council.
Welcome, John.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. So you want to know why? I think what I got from your opening is that you want to know why do you do this? Is that sort of the question? So for me, it all started back when I was a kid. My father joined the planning board and the ZBA in the town that I lived in because they wanted to do things in the town that he and his friends didn't agree with, and they got involved. So they shaped that town and how that town is very much like it is today. And that community prospered and grew and is doing well. So when I got the opportunity shortly after my father died, I decided, let's continue the service. Mm-hmm. Service is good. My family comes from police service. Community service is what I can give, and I joined the planning board. And you join these boards, and you say to yourself, I'm going to make a difference. There's all these things I can do, and then you join it, and you find out we're not a home rule state. We're a Dillon rule state. What does all that mean? Why can't we shape the community the way we want to do it? The state says we have to do this, and you spend many years learning the rules and the regulations and the laws, and you find out you can't just do whatever you want, but you learn how to work through the system. You learn what's best for the community, and you listen to what the people say, and you say, all right, we want to make this a special place. And the people who get involved, it's everyone. They do it because they want Londonderry to be special. After spending 10 or 11 years on the planning board, it became apparent that this billion-dollar development was going to come to town that's called Woodmont. And that was about 10 or 11 years ago. And I looked at it and I'm like, wow, this is going to change the community. Mm-hmm. But what we need to do is engage them. Get out in front of it. Make sure it doesn't change the community. Make sure it's shaped the way the citizens of Londonderry want it shaped. And the only way you could do that was really, taking the stake of putting yourself out there and running for election. I looked at it and said, I'm never going to run for election. It wasn't my thing. So you go out and you do it, and I had friends helping me, and you're putting up signs, and it's an exciting time, and you go out and you talk about what are the things that you want to accomplish. So just recently, I'm going through some old files on my laptop, and that was back in the days of before Facebook and Twitter and
social media.
You would stand out on corners and hand out brochures, mm-hmm. and it would say what you would do and how you thought how the community be shaped. Mm-hmm. And I found this, and I started to read it. And I was like, these are all the things we're doing. This was these actions that we said we needed to take 9 years ago. We've done most of them. Mm-hmm. We're doing them today. Mm-hmm. And I shared some of this information with some of the young police officers then, who are now in the executive command of the police, and with the fire chief and with the police chief. I said, hey, you guys remember this? And they're like, this is what we've been doing. Mm-hmm. And it was completely amazing. And you look at it and you say, you have to have this balance of community. And you learn these things through 2 and 3 elections now. And you talk about what does it take to run a town. People would probably be shocked that it takes $100 million to run Londonderry. I mean, imagine, it's $100 million. 8 years ago, of that $100 million, about 11 or 12 million of it came from commercial. Today, 27 million comes from commercial.
Wow, so that really grew.
So, and the plan is keep it on the outskirts of town. So the people who live here in town look at their tax bill and notice that even though on the school side of government, and they're a totally separate side of government, mm-hmm. educating our children, well, costs continue to rise.
Right.
the tax bill stays flat. Because what we learned is the town side of government is about positive energy, generating revenue, and protecting the core of the community. So you look at it and you say, why did I do this? I look at it and I go, it was fun. It was serving community. It was being able to say, I have no agenda. No personal agenda. It's just about what's the right thing to do. Hard decisions have to get made. And you go out and you find you gotta hire the right people and you gotta match the right personalities to the community. And here in Londonderry, we've been lucky. We've gotten some really good people who love this community the way the citizens love this community. You know, we honored the Citizen of the Year, Katie Sullivan, the other day. Nobody loves this community more than Katie Sullivan does. I wish I could say I love this community the way she does, but nobody else does. She is just unbelievable. You know, she touches so many people and makes a difference in so many lives. And you look at it and you get to know these folks who are on the police department and the fire department. And you know, Patrick Cheatham, who's now a captain on the police department. I met Patrick when he was 23. And you know, he came to our house about, you know, something that happened there with a nativity scene out front. And we just went, what a nice guy. And here we are. He's leading the department. You got guys like Darren O'Brien, who grew up here in town, who's married into the Hicks family. And you know, Dan Hicks just passed away, who was the first fire chief. And you look at all the young men and women in the ranks and how they go out and how they work with the community, how they talk to people, we have an aging community, how they go out and how they help them. And it's all a passion of service. So why do you do this? You do it because it's service. It's about giving back to the community. It's about really understanding that you're part of the community and you have to help everyone that you talk to. I mean, I tell people all the time, you can't be everywhere all the time, but with these cell phones, you know, I tell people, call me. You know, 603-289-2011, and people call and I don't know who they are, and they introduce themselves. And they say, you know, John, could you look into this? Or like there's a condo owner right now with a problem, says, could you help us? Could you look into this? And we gather the information and we use our resources to make sure the people who pay the bills here in town, who pay the taxes, get the services, and not just the regular services. You know, trash and snow plowing and police and everything. It's those ancillary services that make your life a little less stressful. That's why you do this. You do it for the people. You do it because you care. When we hired our new town manager, I said to him, there's really only 5 things that matter. I said, if you do these 5 things well, we can do all of the other ancillary things. Number 1, protect our children in the schools. That's the town side of government. Number 2, when you call the police, they come. Number 3, when you call the fire department, they come. And we supply them with the best equipment in the state and the best training in the state because they literally save lives in this community. Number 4, plow the roads and do it efficiently and well. And then pick up the trash. If you do those 5 things well, the community will allow you to do those extra things to excel. And Londonderry does those well. So, do you have any questions for me, ladies?
I think you're very passionate about your job. So how many years have you been in town council now?
So I've served 9 years, 5 as the chairman, and then I served 10 and a half, 11 years on the planning board.
Wow. That's
So you definitely
quite
have
a thing.
experience.
You know, experience is good, but what I have learned about it is these are really part-time type of things. You have to depend on good staff, hire good attorneys, and depend on people getting information for you because you don't have the time to really go find all the information
Right.
to make good decisions. What I also found is make decisions slowly, make them thoughtfully. Get all the information first. Don't be afraid to delay a decision.
Right.
Don't be afraid to delay it so you make the right decision. The other thing I learned is when someone sends you an email, if you can, answer it immediately. Acknowledge you've received it. You may not have the answer. If someone asks you a question, you may not have the answer, but acknowledge it. Also accept the fact that you're going to have, everyone's not going to agree with you, and you're going to make some decisions that are unpopular, but you have to make them. But you have to listen to what the people say. And you also have to have the ability to change your mind. If you make a decision and that was a bad decision, you should change that decision. You don't have to live with it. Or even if it was a good decision and it needs to be altered and improved, make those decisions.
Very good.
The charter of the council is to drive revenue. That's our charter that we assign ourselves with. But protect the community at all times. Londonderry is 47,000 square miles. Boston's 48,000. Londonderry is 47 square miles. Boston is 48 square miles.
It's crazy when you think
It
of
is.
it.
Think about the
crazy.
size of our
Boston,
town.
a city versus
Right.
Londonderry, a town.
We have 66 sworn police officers. Right? We have over 40 firefighters. We have people, who are on the clock 24 hours a day. People say, what's the hardest part of it? The hardest part is knowing that you have to make sure that you've given everybody the tools they need to keep everybody safe, and that you've made those decisions. The scariest part of it is a phone call at night, or someone coming to the door and saying that there was a house on fire in town, or somebody got hurt, or one of the employees, the people who serve this community, got hurt. The biggest concern that the council has is we do everything we can do with putting on this additional school resource officer to protect the most valuable asset in town, our children. Protect that community, that comes first. Everything else will follow. We have good people. We've hired well. And it's a humbling type of thing when you go to these award ceremonies and you see the things that they get, and you stand there and then they say, oh, and John Farrell, the town councilor, well, I didn't do anything. They did everything.
Yeah.
And they say nice, they say something nice about you, like, I didn't do anything. I'm not here for the accolades. I'm here to make sure you get everything you need. I'm here to make sure that Londonderry is the best community in the state of New Hampshire. It would be a lot to say the best in the United States, but the best in the state of New Hampshire. So I appreciate you ladies asking me here. I see that we're running down to the end of our time. I've done all the talking. Is there anything else you'd like to ask me in closing?
There's probably a lot of it. No. I mean, you show passion for the job. And I think it's because you're very involved with the people. When I moved here, I didn't know anybody. And the passion from you guys all at the town hall, I always want to call it the city hall.
From Massachusetts.
I mean, but that makes a difference. It makes you comfortable.
Knowing you can
You're
call
very
someone.
comfortable in this city.
Yeah.
That's the highest compliment that the council could receive.
Yeah.
Is that you like it here, you're comfortable, and you feel safe.
Yep. And that's it.
And what I'd like to say to you is that please come out and vote on March 12th, and if you feel I've done a good job, please vote for me.
Okay, and now we're down to the last minute, so go ahead.
Anytime.
End it off for us with your last minute.
So in the last minute, I'll say, if you ever have a question about anything regarding, the city, the town,
city.
the state, I know about Manchester as well, and if you have a question about airport or anything else, call me. My number is 603-289-2011. I do answer the call. Text me if you're more comfortable with that, and I'll call you back. But I would ask, for your vote. It's a humble experience to run for office, and it really teaches you love of community. So I thank you and wish you all well.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Thank you for
Thank you
coming on.
very- Good evening, everyone. We're here with Town Councilor Tom Dolan, and we're going to give him 15 minutes to talk and share why he would like to run for and is running for Town Councilor. Tom?
Well, thanks, Sherry. Thank you, ladies, for having me.
Welcome.
Well, let's look at history a little bit. I got involved way back in 2001, back when we were trying to decide whether we were going to invest in a power plant in town, and we started looking at that in the sense of what would it do for a tax impact to the town, because here we were, a residential community with a lot of homes being built through the 80s and 90s, and our schools were starting to swell with more and more children, and really put a burden on our taxpayers to pay for that. So we started looking at industries we could attract to town to help offset what residential taxpayers were paying. So back then, the power plant was started. Now it's paying over $8 million a year in property taxes to us, and that doesn't represent quite 10%, but almost 10% of all the taxes collected in town come from that one facility. And also, we looked at how can we continue to develop clean industries in town that would again provide us with tax revenues, like you see now up by the airport, which is all Londonderry property. In fact, most people don't realize, but about 75% of the airport is in Londonderry. And all along that Pettingill Road area, those big facilities that are being built, each of those bring give or take about $1 million in tax revenue to the town every single year, which help offset our taxes to our residents. So that's been a very positive thing. The other side of that is, well, okay, development is good in that regard, but how do we still preserve the quality of life and the rural atmosphere that most of us came to town hoping for and embraced? So along those lines, we also worked on changing what lands are protected. So we went through a lot of open space preservation over that time period. We managed to preserve all of the apple orchards in town except for one. I know John Farrell and I were both disappointed. In fact, I had left the council about 10 years ago to back off a little bit, and I was working on the budget committee. And then I was disappointed when I found out that the apple orchard that's being developed now was lost to open space preservation. We didn't get to preserve it. So I was very disappointed. I know John was too. So we could have done, John and I both could have done one or two things. We could have said, oh, we're so disappointed, and wrung our hands and looked at it that way. Or what we both did is we say, let's get involved and let's try to steer that development into something that is acceptable to the community and is pleasing, and also preserves, again, the costs associated with supporting something like that. So we both got involved, that we both ran together at that point, and we both were elected, and we've been working very hard to make sure that development over the number of years that it's now been in the planning stages is going to yield something that the town can live with. It won't be a drain on our taxes, and moving forward from there. So that's been a very positive thing. So we're able to drive taxes down through good, clean industrial development, and also still preserving the quality of life that most of us have come to really enjoy here in Londonderry. So that's been a positive thing.
Thinking that you started serving in 2001.
I did, yes.
That's quite an honor.
Yes.
In my family, we moved here in the late 60s, and you think of the changes, up by the airport, 75% of the airport here in Londonderry.
It is, right. I remember I was serving on the airport committee, and the airport director, they had just built the runway that goes over the road. as you come into the airport from the west. And he said, we're going to put a sign on that roadway so people, when they drive under it, they can see that sign. Any suggestions for what should be on the sign? And I knew I was being only half serious, but I said, how about a sign that says "Welcome to Londonderry"? he wasn't real happy with me because
I agree.
but it is Londonderry, and,
Yeah.
and we get a lot of benefit. The other thing we did with the airport, and again, I'm emphasizing the experience that I bring to the party here because I think it is so important to make sure that the future looks as good as the past has looked. When we first started working with the airport, as they started to expand, we went to the airport director and back at that time, we said, hey, we think the airport should contribute more to our town because the airport's mostly in Londonderry. The parking garage, the main tower, the terminal, that's all in Londonderry. So that Londonderry has to deal with the noise of the airplanes and the pollution and so forth. So you need to contribute more to our town. So he wasn't happy about that, and of course you can't. The airport's part of the city of Manchester, so you can't. A government entity cannot tax another government entity. So we would like to have taxes coming to us from the airport, but we can't. So there is a thing called a pilot, no pun intended, but a pilot, that word stands for a payment in lieu of taxes. So you can collect that from another government agency. So we said, well, let's develop a pilot that gives Londonderry some money to help, again, offset our taxes and compensate us for the airport's presence. And that right now, we were able to negotiate that. That was a tough negotiation. The airport was expanding, and because they're in Londonderry, they had to go through our planning board for everything they wanted to do. And we said, look, we played hardball with the airport. We said, if you're going to do that, we're not going to approve any of your plans. And you're not going to be able to expand the airport. And they got very upset with us. And we said, but we went into negotiations, and for a much better pilot, which right now it's somewhere around $700,000 to $800,000 a year that they're paying us and every year, that we agreed to give them planning board authority to approve of the expansion projects at the airport, which they take to the Manchester Planning Board now instead of the Londonderry Planning Board. So that was a negotiation that turned out really good for Londonderry.
People don't realize what goes on behind the scenes
Yeah.
in every position. It's like any job, really.
Definitely.
Right. We had some strong players. I think I bring a strength to the team. I know John Farrell does as well. John's spent since forever on the planning board, and he knows every little nook and cranny of the town, of how it developed and what needs to happen going forward. There's one additional thing that I can talk about, and that is, this is something I waited for until I retired from my job. I was an engineer over at BAE Systems, and what I wanted to do is I wanted to serve in Concord at the State House. But I knew that the demands of that position I wouldn't be able to do my regular job and do that. So I waited till I retired from BAE and have since gone to Concord. So what can I do there? So what I can do, being on the town council here in Londonderry and being at the State House, I can make sure that my colleagues up there understand firsthand when they create a law what the impact is to a town. And one of the things that we've always been kind of grumpy about is those unfunded mandates that come from the state. The state wants us to do something, so that's going to cost us some money. And you're not sending us money to do it. Now we have to ask our taxpayers to pay for that. So I can push back and say, no, if you want us to do that, you're going to have to send money, or you make it optional for us to do it, not mandatory. So that's been something that I've been able to do. And can I tell you one law that I wrote?
Sure.
Absolutely.
It's currently going through the process right now. The scenario is mom or dad are in the laundry room, and they go through the pot before they put the stuff in the washing machine. They go through the pockets
Absolutely.
and make sure that everything's out of the pockets. And you find stuff in the laundry room, and you talk to different moms and dads. The stuff they find can be pretty extraordinary. Well, we have this prescription drug take-back program where we take back prescription drugs in the police station. Most towns do it twice a year. We do it every day, 24/7, 365. And so we're working really hard on this opioid crisis. So we said, well, what about if we expanded the prescription drug take-back to include illegal drugs? What if mom or dad finds illegal drugs in the washroom or in the cellar after a party or in a teen's bedroom? What do you do with it? Well, there's no good options. Once mom and dad has that bag of whatever, you can't. There's no legal way to dispose of it. You're actually perhaps committing a felony by possessing it now. So we got to give more options to our citizens to help get rid of these drugs, to dispose of them properly. You can't flush them down the toilet, it's bad for the environment. You can't throw them in the trash, someone could get them, or they go into a landfill or a transfer station. You can't pitch them out the car window when you're driving down the road. Wildlife, we have instances now where wildlife has been eating some of these pills and dying from them. It's awful. So my bill that I'm processing through the wickets right now would give immunity to moms and dads to bring that stuff and turn it in legally and get rid of it and make sure that they have those options at their.
That's
a great
idea.
That is
idea.
phenomenal.
I never gave
That's
that a
great.
thought.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boy.
It's we need
That's
to
tough.
we need to give ourselves as community members better options on how to get rid of these things legally.
Yeah.
Permission to help
Definitely.
each other too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
and
okay.
it's not
What do
just
you
moms
do
and
with
dads.
that? Yeah.
I mean, you could be with a friend out having a drink, and your friend reaches into their pocket and they take something. You say, "What is that?" And you take it from them. Say, "You shouldn't be doing that. That's bad." What are you going to do with it now that you got it?
Right.
That's
So-
a great
That's
I
thing.
never
very
thought
good,
about
Tom.
that.
No, I
That
never
really
did
is.
either. That's a great thing.
It's nice that you're representing us there in Concord. It's really nice. I
Yeah,
like that.
that's a good thing.
Yeah.
It really,
real
it
good thing.
really
And
does
it's
work
such
in
a concern.
conjunction with being on town council.
It really
Right.
does.
Right,
Really
right.
does.
Yeah. Luckily, we have a town manager and a police chief that are very sympathetic to those issues in the community and are working with us to do this. Right now, we're doing a trial run in Londonderry, taking illicit drugs as well as prescription drugs, but we're doing it somewhat at risk. I mean, if you're a mom and you've got a Ziploc bag full of pills, you don't know what they are, and you head to the police station to turn them in, but
Oh,
you get in a
geez,
car
right.
accident on the way to the police station, and you find this bag of drugs in the car. I mean, you're not protected.
Right.
You could
Good
be
point.
liable for possession of an illegal drug. So we want to extend that immunity and get it above board. And this is no questions asked, no names taken, just turn it in and we'll dispose of it for you.
That's wonderful.
That is
that
exciting.
is
That
great.
really
That
is,
is
yeah.
quite a thing.
Because we all
Because
know
it really,
what a
that
horrific
does
problem
happen.
it's all become.
Right. I think as community leaders, as law enforcement, we need to take a higher responsibility to help clean these things up.
Yeah, definitely.
That's great.
I think that's a
Thank
great
you.
thing.
Thank
Yeah,
you from our entire community. Yeah. Boy.
that's important.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, we got like another minute, so
there anything else
at
you
the
wanna-
end here, whatever you feel as though you want to say and tell us, and
well, especially from my point of view, I think it's important to lean on the experience that I bring to the table, as well as John brings to the table, because some of the stuff that we're working on is very serious, very complex, and I think the record is that our town taxes have come down over the past several years. Now, your total tax bill may have gone up a little bit, but the town government that represents the taxes for the town government is only a small portion. So that's the only thing we're responsible for. And I'm not going to say bad things about other people that are running in different parts of the government. That's for people to make their own choices. But I can tell you on the town side, we apply two filters to every big decision. One filter is, what's the right thing for the town? The other filter is, what's the right thing for the taxpayer? Because it might be the right thing for the town, but if we can't afford it, we've got to say no. At least for a while, we've got to say no.
right.
And if we don't pass those two filters, you won't find me voting for it.
Very good.
So ladies, thank you
Exceptional.
for hosting me, and
Perfect timing,
Right.
Tom.
I
Thank you.
appreciate
Yeah.
The opportunity to get the word out. to
And
the
we thank you
community.
for your
Okay.
service
Thank you.
on
Yeah.
so many different levels too, Tom, you know. It's great having you with us. And
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Hi, everyone. We're back with Deb Paul, who's running for town council. And Deb, we'd like you to just share anything you would like with the community.
Welcome, Deb.
Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you. Well, I decided to throw my hat in because for a long time I have told people to get out and to run, and races should not be unchallenged. And I felt like I had to step forward and lead by example. I sincerely believe that there should never be an uncontested race. I just think that there should always be candidates challenging each other. So that is kind of why I threw my hat into the ring. I've been in town now 25 years. I moved here from Revere. And in that 25 years, the town has grown to a point where I don't necessarily like. I wish it was still small again. Even though it was only 25 years, a lot has changed, a lot. And so, you know, that is something that I care deeply about, and that is growth management and doing it with thought and being more proactive as opposed to reactive. I find sometimes we tend to be more reactive to situations, for example, like Stonehenge. We became very reactive to it instead of being proactive and maybe have had the foresight to have seen this coming and taken the proper channels and steps and put things in place to have maybe not had that happen there. Am I against apartments? Absolutely not. I just don't think that they should be in the middle of neighborhoods on roads that have issues. And so that was kind of why I was against it. And that's why I'm running. If any of you guys have any questions for me, please feel free to ask. But it's really a plain and simple thing. I didn't buy signs, and I don't intend to buy signs because I don't intend to do this ever again. It's not something I want to get into. I don't want to be a politician, but I don't have a fear of standing up and saying how I feel. I don't have a problem fighting for people. So in that respect, I feel, I guess I'm a politician, but I don't necessarily need the position. So there you go.
Now, are you on any boards right now? Do you
Nope.
serve on any of the boards? Okay, I
I
wasn't sure.
I do sit on the board of the YMCA.
Yeah,
I am involved in the upper room. I'm involved with the Salvation Army. I'm involved with CATS. I'm also involved with the Londonderry Knights of Columbus. So I get involved with different
Right.
things, but I'm not necessarily involved in anything in the town at the moment.
okay.
So this would be your first sort of political, if
Yes,
you will,
ever in my whole
venue.
life. Ever. Well, I'm lying. I did run for something in college once.
So-
So there you go. I did run for something
Yeah.
once back then. But yeah, no, I've never run. But I did sit on a few boards in town.
Right.
I sat on the Heritage Committee. I only did it for a term and a half. So that's I did it for 3 years plus. I got off of that because I got appointed or elected to the town charter. I guess that was another elected official position. I was on the town charter to change the town's government. And I stepped down from there. And then I was on the master plan and the master plan implementation committee were the only other boards, official boards. Well, no. When I first came to town, I was on Old Home Day for 7 years, something like that. And then I got involved with the Historical Society and their side of it because they were struggling to figure that out because they're all older. Not that I'm a spring chicken because I'm at the 60-year-old mark, but they're 10 to 20 years older than me and they're trying to do stuff. So I stepped up to the plate and did what I had to do for them. So I guess I forget my timeline.
No, you know that your time. No, that's,
No, not my time
No,
is up, but my timeline.
time.
Like,
Still
'cause I
has
don't
time.
really think back about it. I mean, I have a philosophy of always forward, always. You just don't go back. You just keep moving forward. I mean, when I was going through cancer, when I was 28 years old, that was my philosophy. Forward, forward, forward. I just never looked back. And, you know, I beat it, and I didn't want to think about it. And then, you know, 30 years later, it came back. And again, it was just forward, forward, forward. And then, you know, I got whacked with Lyme, and, you know, that's been a challenge. Thank God I've got on a right cocktail that I actually have energy again. I can move again, which is
That's
phenomenal.
wonderful.
Lyme is a tough one.
But it's getting that right cocktail for it to move forward. So I feel good I haven't felt good in a long time, 2-3 years, but I still kept moving forward.
That's
It's
a
just
good.
something.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I did fight in the town to try to take a look at term limits. I will tell you, I am so for term limits. Across the board, not just like in local government, straight on up to the presidents. I wish they would change it that you can only be a president once, make it longer, make it 8 years if you want, but one and done. And same thing with Congress. It should be. I don't think after 9 years. I really think it's time to move on, get a fresh pair of eyes, a different perspective, look at things differently, challenge things, and I think that's what new people do because they don't understand and they don't know. And so things are brought up again and looked at again and challenged. And I think that is a really, really, really good thing, especially in government, because it prevents nepotism, it prevents cronyism, it gets rid of corruption. It keeps that at a level base. I mean, obviously it's always going to happen, but by having turnover, it tends to lessen it. And that's why in nonprofits, they do it on a regular basis. They get a turnover, you got to turn over because they don't want that connection, which I believe is important. Because all the time I hear people say, well, that's the way we always did it. Well, that's great, but you know what? We used to throw chemicals in the ground, and we said, that's the way we do it. And if you don't stop and take a look and say, hey, that may not be the right way to do something, or hey, you know, they all had slaves years ago, and they said, that's the way you do it. You get and that's just how it is. And until people started fighting and changing and looking at things, that's how change came about. And so change is something to be embraced and not feared. But it should happen for a greater good, not for making money or a special agenda or anything like that.
So you bring a question to mind.
Yes.
Since you don't have experience of previously being on the town council as the other candidates, how do you yourself feel you would handle if you get elected and you jump in to how would you deal with whatever issues they're currently dealing with to get yourself caught up on the research and
First off, because I have the paper, I watch every single meeting, and I have been watching for the last 25 years. So I think I actually bring a different perspective because I watch every single board, not just in Londonderry, but in Derry, and in Chester, and in Sandown, and in Hampstead. So I bring a different perspective because I see these boards happening all the time. And so my opinion is you should fully vet things. Discussion and conversation is the best thing to do, and you should look under every single rock. You should listen to every single person because you just don't know. You know, that's why we have public meetings, is so people can come and talk because they may have expertise in a certain area. So for example, when the sound went out, right, on the cable, I'm like, oh, the lines must be done. But that's not it. And so when Drew talks to me and tells me, I look at him as an expert in that area, so he tells me what was going on, and I understood it, and I said, okay. And so I fluctuate. One day I could be 4 white cups, and then somebody comes in and shows me black cups and how great they look, and I'd sit there and say, well, maybe we should have a choice. Maybe we should have an option. If people bring information forward that is sound I will always be flexible to change. So I don't have a set pattern. So maybe that's a better thing. I don't know. It goes back to continually doing the same thing. I mean, if people, feel that, they want to continue to do the same thing in the town, then they elect the same people. But if sometimes you want to bring in some change and different perspectives, then you bring in new people. And it's not like the people who were on the town council, if they don't, don't get elected, if I do get elected, can't be involved. I mean, they can show up at meetings as they always do and say, hey, I remember it turning out like this, or, oh, I remembered it like this. So I do think that I have enough experience with town government, and I was the first class in leadership Londonderry. I did take that class, and that was very enlightening. But over the years, I've learned an awful lot. Some good, some bad, some not, some indifferent. But it's all been. It's been a definitely an experience. Learning about it. And I think that's another thing. I want to prove to people that, you know what, you don't have to necessarily be the expert, but if you're reading and you do the research and you watch, you too can step up and do it. So, you know what, it doesn't matter that you don't have experience per se on the board, but you have experience that you bring to a table to enhance it and to maybe elevate it to an even higher level. So I don't know. Anybody else? I don't know what else to say because I don't have an agenda. Like I said, it's just basically I did not want to see an uncontested race. So I don't have an agenda. I don't have an issue. I don't really have.
So that's the number one.
Yeah.
Was there a
Uncontested.
particular reason of why you chose town council versus, who's the other one, the budget
School
committee?
board.
School
Or
board.
school
What else
board,
was
those
there?
are
Oh, trustees
contested.
of the
trustees of
library.
libraries contested. Yeah, is there?
Well, because I had known people were going to be running for those positions, and I saw that they were already challenged. The one that I missed, and I probably would have run for, was treasurer, but I didn't see that. I forgot all. Sorry, just
it
went
is
under the
one of-
radar.
Yeah, it's one of those positions.
And so that is why. And to be honest, I'm okay at numbers. I was a commodity broker for many years, so I'm okay at numbers, but I'm not like, I hate budgets. I know you have to do them.
We
I
all
have
hate
one.
budgets.
Yeah, it's just I hate
Be it
budgets.
personal
Yes,
or
I
at
do,
work.
yeah.
We all have to deal with a budget. We all don't like them.
I know, but you do it, but I do feel bad for the budget committee because they do put a lot of hours in, and it's a lot of work, and it's hard for them, and I wish they had more. I wish the budget committee had more power, like maybe an alternate budget that was put on the ballot even. I do think that they run for something
Group of people.
and they work real hard. That's hard, looking at all those numbers in a very short period of time and digesting it all and taking it apart and making the right choices. It's a very difficult position. And planning board's appointed, you don't run for it, even though I do believe it has great power. It's probably one of the highest boards you could be on. It's school, town, and then I would say planning board. Almost a lot of towns have it as an elected position. It might be something that Londonderry could look at, which would there again give you turnover and stability in those boards.
Yeah, that sounds.
Sounds okay to you?
Sounds fine to me.
Oh, okay. That's all that matters.
That's all right. Well, I want to let you know that we're down to the minute time.
Yeah.
So now, for your last minute, you can just
Anything you want.
say what you want.
All right. Well, my name's Deb Paul. I would humbly ask for your vote. I will be at Coffee Berries on the 23rd between 10 and 12. If you have questions, feel free to call me, 537-2760. Email me. Always available. I may not be there right then, but I get back to you within a day. So come by, have a cup of coffee. It's a great little shop, and there you go.
Thank you.
Thank
Very
you for
good.
this opportunity,
Thank you,
ladies.
Deb.
And
Thank